Hey my friends, and welcome to this mini project video. We were going to harness the power of Clerk for authentication in our NextJs 15 application. I'm going to walk you through Clerk authentication step by step, and you will also learn in details how to use Webhooks, Clerk Webhooks in your NextJs 15 application. And the wonderful thing is that I'm also going to walk you through on how to deploy a NextJs 15 application on Vercel, which in my opinion is the best platform to deploy your NextJs applications. And we're going to see our project live and accessible from anywhere. So if you're excited for this one, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time coming around. And let's jump right in. On the left here is my VS Code window, and on the right is my Safari browser. So within my VS Code, I'm going to open up the folder that we're going to be working with. And I have a folder in my desktop. So let me navigate to the desktop. And it's called NextAuth app. So I'm going to open it up. Close off the Welcome tab. And then I'm going to open up the terminal and spin up a NextJs 15 application. So I'm going to type the command npx create next app at latest. And then for my project name, I'm going to type a dot to signify that I want my project name to be the same with the name of the folder that we're working with. And TypeScript, yes, we'll be working with TypeScript. And ESLint, yes. Tailwind CSS, yes. SRC directory, no. And app router, yes. And for the turbo pack, no. To customize the import alias, no. And then a new NextJs application is on the way for us. And by the way, this is going to be the latest version of NextJs, which is version 15. NextJs actually made some changes, just very little changes, I would say, in this NextJs 15 version. And they've made it easier to even deploy your application on Vercel and manage it perfectly. We're also going to be deploying our application to Vercel in order to do all of the things that we want to do in this application. I think this is going to be cool. The dependencies are still installing, and after a while, yes, we have our NextJs application ready because we have the success message right here. So I'm going to clear up the terminal and then spin up the app on our localhost 3000. I'm going to say npm run dev, and then we're going to be visiting this right here on port 3000. So let me copy this and paste inside of my Safari browser. And yes, this is what we have. We have our application up and running. So what I want to do now is to clear up a bit some of the things that we have right here on our web app, because we don't need many of these things. And I'm not going to be doing too much of the UI thing because this is a project to actually showcase how we can add authentication using Clerk and even bring in webhooks from Clerk in our application. So I'm just going to clean up this a bit. And in order to do that, let's navigate to this place and open up the app folder, and we have the page.tsx file right here, which is responsible for what we're seeing on this page at the moment. Let me close up the terminal so we have some space. So what I'm going to do is go down and take away everything from this A tag right here. Take this one out. And I'm just going to leave the deploy now. And then I'm going to delete the ordered list right here. So let's find the ordered list. So this is what we have right here, NextJs and deploy now. And for the deploy now, I'm just going to say join now and save. Yeah, this is cool. This page we're seeing currently is the root of our application. So it means that if we go here, you can see we're just on localhost 3000. And even when we deploy this application and we name it something like nextauthApp.com, it means that when we visit nextauthApp.com, we're still going to see this page, right? So let's add some route to our application. And how do we do that? We're going to go to the app right here, and within the app, we're going to create a folder. So I want to create a welcome route. So I'm going to say welcome, like so. And then within the welcome folder, I'm going to have a page.tsx file. And then I'm going to spin up a boilerplate code using RFCE. If this doesn't work for you, it must mean that you don't have the extensions that I'm using for this project. So if you go to the extensions here on VS Code, you can see some of the extensions that I'm using. So you can download the simple React snippets, and you can also download the prettier, which is a code formatter. It helps to format your code. When you save the code, you can also download the Tailwind CSS IntelliSense. You can download and install it in your VS Code, so they can help to also read the Tailwind CSS stylings that we'll be using in our application. So these are some of the important extensions that you can download. You can also download the ES7 Plus React Redux React snippets. All right, so you can download these extensions to help you build your application faster. So for this welcome, I'm going to have it say welcome like so and save. So that means if we navigate to our welcome route /welcome, we're going to see the welcome right here. It's very tiny, but yeah, we can see it right there. I'm also going to create another route and call it dashboard. So still within the app folder, I'm going to create another folder and I'm going to call it dashboard. And then within this folder, I'm going to create a file and name it page.csx. And within the page.csx, I'm going to bring in the boilerplate code rfce, and then I'm going to say welcome to dashboard like so and save. So now when we visit /dashboard, then we should be able to see the dashboard displayed there. Yeah, it says welcome to dashboard. All right, now that we have the dashboard route and the welcome route and even the root of our application right here, let's talk about authentication in NextJs Application. So in real world apps, you'd want users to be able to visit some pages, whether they are logged in or not. That is, whether the user is authenticated or not. Sometimes you also want only authenticated or logged in user to be able to visit some pages. In our current application, where we have the welcome route and the dashboard route right here, I want the user to be able to visit the welcome route, but only authenticated or logged in user should be able to visit the dashboard route right here. So how do we do that? We use Clerk to bring in authentication. And Clerk is a powerful way, the best way that I know currently, to bring in authentication to your web or mobile application. And the docs are really simple to use and follow. I've also found out that Clerk has improved their platform a lot. So it's a lot easier for programmers to follow, and it's very robust. This is not a sponsored video. I'm not from Clerk. And so this is just based off on the experiences that I've had using Clerk in my NextJs application. So what we're going to do now is go to clerk.com. And here we are. You can see it says the most comprehensive user management platform. And it has a complete suite of embeddable UIs, flexible APIs, and admin dashboards to authenticate and manage users. It's very, very robust and nice and easy. So what we're going to do now is go here, click on the hamburger icon right there. And if you're not signed in, you can click on sign in. Or if you don't have an account, then you can click on get started. In my case, I already have an account with Clerk. So I'm going to click on sign in and then enter my email and password and enter. And so it takes me to my dashboard right here. You can see there are some applications that I've worked with in recent past. And then once you're into your Clerk dashboard, you click on create application, and then you can give an application name right here. So I'm going to call this NextJs app. And then here you have some options to choose from, options that you want your users to use to sign in into the application. So in this case, I want to make it very simple. I'm just going to use email, and I'm also going to have Google. If you want, you can also have username, or in fact, let me select username. So your user can sign in with an email, a username, or your user can sign in with Google. If you want your users to be able to sign in with Facebook, Apple, GitHub, and so many other ones, Microsoft, LinkedIn, and all of this, then you can toggle on the checkbox right here. In our case, I'm just going to choose the email, username, and Google. And right here on the right is a view of what the sign-in page is going to look like. You can see it says sign into NextJs app, and it says welcome back, please sign in, and all of that. And you can sign in with Google, and you can sign in using either email address or username. All right, so we're going to leave it at this and then create application. And there are some steps to follow to configure your NextJs application for Clerk. And this set of instructions to follow down here are for NextJs application. If you're working with React, you can click on React right here. If you're working with Remix, you can click here, and so on and so forth. But since we're working with the best framework for web development, NextJs, we're just going to stick with NextJs and follow the instructions right here. Now the first thing is to install Clerk, NextJs Application. So I'm going to copy this and open up the terminal on my VS Code. This is our server, so I'm going to open up a new terminal and then paste that command right there and enter. All right, now the Clerk NextJs package is done installing with no vulnerabilities. And let me clear the terminal and close off the terminal. And the next one is to set your environment variables. So what I'm going to do is copy this one and then create a .env.local file. So I'm going to go here, and within our application right here, I'm going to create the .env.local file, and then I'm going to paste it right there. Of course, you have to make sure that the .env.local file is not within any of these other folders. It has to be directly within the root of our application, that is within the next of app folder. Alright, so here we have the next public Clerk publishable key and the Clerk secret key. For the next public Clerk publishable key, we can take this one out because this is just for example. So I'm going to take this one out and we're going to fetch our own values, right? How do we do that? We can go to configure right there, click on configure, and then click on this icon right here and scroll down. You can see the API keys. Click on this and then scroll down, and then you see the publishable key. So we can just copy this and then paste right here. And for the secret key, we can copy this as well and paste for the secret key. All right, and save. All right, so let's go back to the docs. Now, after setting up our environment variables, we also need to create a middleware.ts file if you don't already have one. So I'm going to copy what we have in this middleware.ts. Just copy and then come right here. Again, within the root of our application, we're going to create a middleware.ts file. And instead of this middleware.ts file, we're going to paste in what we just copied right now, like so, and save. And the next thing we're going to do is add Clerk provider to our application. And based on what Clerk is saying here, it says that all Clerk hooks and components must be children of the Clerk provider components. And we can control what content signed in and signed out users can see with the Clerk's pre-built components. So what we're going to do is we have a layout.csx file right here within the app folder. Right here we have the layout.csx file. And this layout.css file is used to give some sort of general layout that we want the pages in our application to have. And it usually has the HTML and the body, and then it has the children. And you can see right here that the body has been set to have this font. So that means our application is using this font, gist.sans.variable and gist.mono.variable, and they're all defined right here. So this is what the layout file does to help us organize our pages and have general things that will occur or that we have throughout our pages, such as the headers, the footers, the left sidebar, the right sidebar, and things like that. They can all be given inside of the layout so that each page will have those components, the header component, the footer component, and so on and so forth. The layout is also used to have some values persist throughout our application. So in this case, we want to wrap the Clerk provider right here inside of our layout. And in this particular case, this is our root layout. The layouts are the roots of our application. So we want to have it there so that every page that exists inside of our application will have access to this Clerk provider, the values that we can get from the Clerk provider. So what I'm going to do now is just copy the Clerk provider right here and paste it right here. And of course, we'll have to close this. I'll say Clerk provider like so. And we also have to import it, right? So the shorthand way of importing things that I know is I just delete one letter and type again, and then we'll have some suggestion. In this case, it's saying it's going to be coming from the Clerk Next.js right here. So I'm going to select that, and it gets imported at the top for us. You can see it's imported from Clerk Next.js. So the next thing I'm going to do is also copy all of this signed out and signed in right here, and then paste it right here within the body. It's also going to complain because we don't have the sign out and sign in button and all of this imported. So what I'm going to do again is come right here and delete the T, type it out, and it suggests where it should be coming from. We click that and it's imported for us. And for the button, the same thing. For the signed in and for the user button. Alright, so everything has been imported for us. And what are these sign out, sign in button and the rest of them? Well, let's scroll down a bit to see if it's actually described for us. Okay, right here, it is not actually described, but if we go to another page and visit clerk.com and go to the docs and click on quick starts and tutorials and click on NextJs, then if we scroll down, we'll be able to see something about this sign in and signed out component. They're right here and they've been described right here. So you can see the Clerk provider component wraps your app to provide active session and user context to Clerk's hooks and other components. So it means that this Clerk provider will help us to provide a session to our application. That means a user will be able to sign in and sign out, and then we can also grab that user and get the ID of the user from Clerk and all of that thing. For the sign in button, it says children of this component can only be seen while signed in. It means that whenever the user signed in, then the children of the sign in component, for example, this user button right here, will be seen when the user is signed in. And if the user is signed out, right here, it says the children of this component can only be seen while signed out. It means that when we're signed out, then we're going to be seeing this sign in button. And for this user button, it shows the signed in user's avatar. So for the user button here, which is a child of this signed in component, it says it's going to display an avatar. So it's just an avatar that shows up when the user is already signed in. And the sign in button is an unstyled component that links to the sign in page. So the sign in button that we have right here is just an unstyled component that will take us to the sign in page where we're not going to be able to sign up. I'm going to say this briefly. So let's go back to the docs right here. So after adding the Clerk provider to our app, let's look at the next thing. So the next thing to do now is to create our user. All right, so let's get back to our app. And already you can see we have that signed in right here that we just read about, because we have this signed in button. And this sign in button is just that text that says sign in. And we're seeing it at the moment because we're signed out. We've not yet created an account and we're not logged in definitely. So we're seeing the sign in button right here. But if we're to log in after creating our account, then we're going to be seeing a user button right here. So let's try things out. So let me click on this sign in button and it says sign into NextJs app. And then you can see we can sign in with Google and we can sign in with email address or username. In this case, we can't sign in at the moment because we've not yet created an account. So in that case, we can click on sign up. And yes, we'll get to the sign up page where we can create an account using the username, email address, and the password. So let's just go ahead and create an account right here. So I'm going to have a username of LDix and then an email address and then a password and then click on continue. And then this also has a multi-verification system or a multi-factor authentication. So it needs to send a code to our email, which you're going to verify, and then put the code right there to be able to sign up. So I got the code and it is 949914. So yes, success, and we have a user already. So now you can see we now have this avatar right here, the user button avatar. Since we're already signed in, after signing up, we were signed in automatically. That's how Clerk works. After you sign up, you get signed in automatically. And then we'll have that avatar right here. But if we were to sign out right here, then we'll have back the sign in. So yes, our basic authentication is working now. All right. Now that we have our authentication basically working, we want to touch things up a bit. So instead of having all of this right here, what we want to do is take all of this and put in a separate component, for example, the header component, and then we're going to import it back right here. And we also need some icons to depict signing in and signing out and all of that. So what I'm going to do is go to my file explorer, and within the public folder right here, I'm going to have an assets folder that will house the icon that we're going to be using for the sign in and sign up. So right here, you can see I have an assets folder right within the public folder. And that assets folder has an icons folder. And the icons folder is having an account.svg icon right here. And also having a sign up.svg icon. So these are the two icons that we're going to be using. I also have an images folder, but that is currently empty. So I'm going to close off the assets folder, just collapse them. And then the next thing is to create a components folder where we're going to be creating that header.csx component. So right within the root of our application, I'm going to be creating a components folder. And within the components folder, I'm going to be creating a header.csx file. And I'm going to say RFC to spin up a boilerplate code. And let's go back to the layout and then take all of this, everything from the sign out to the sign in right here. So Ctrl X and get to the header. And then we're just going to paste right here. Of course, we're going to get errors now because this sign out and sign in button and all of these components are not yet imported. So like before, I'm going to import them, and we also need to wrap it in a general tag that will wrap everything up. Okay, so I'm going to take all of this and have a React fragment right here and then paste everything right there. So this is soft. And for the layout, since we no longer have most of these components, I'm going to take them all out and save as well. So the error is gone. And then right here, we're going to have the header component coming from components header right here. And when I save, yes, we get back the sign in right here. So now we can close this layout.csx file and then get back to our header.csx file and style this up a bit. So at the moment, this is what we're having for the header component. We're still having the sign in button that will have the user button component, which is the avatar of the user when the user is signed in. And then we also have the sign out component, which also has a sign in button to tell the user to sign in, which is why we're having this sign in right here. Click on sign in, and then we're taken to the page to sign in or sign up. Now let's go back. The issue now is that we also want to have a sign up button, just in case the user wants to directly go to sign up button and sign up right there, instead of first of all clicking on the sign in button and then clicking on the sign up. Now the second thing is we want to be able to customize or have a customized way that a user can actually sign in or sign up. Right now, when we click on the sign in, this is not from our application. As you can notice, if I click on sign in, you can see we have this concise STURG1 and all of this right here. This is not within our application. This is not from our application. It's from Clerk directly. So sometimes, or most of the time, it is useful to have the sign up and the sign in logic right from within our own application. And Clerk already has a way that we can do this. So if we go back to the docs right here, let's see if there is anything about that. You can see it says create custom sign up and sign in pages. So let me click on this, and it says this guide shows you how to use the sign in and sign up components with the NextJs optional catch-all routes and all of that stuff. But simply what it is saying is that we can have right within our application a sign up route and a sign in route within our application, so that the user will not be taken to a totally different platform to sign in or sign up. Everything will be coming from right within our application. And in order to do that, we need to create a sign up folder right here and another folder right here, and then create a page.csx file. And this is for the sign up. And for the sign in, the same thing, only that we're going to have sign in instead of sign up. And then we're just going to have it like this. So what we're going to do right now, in order for this to work, is to come back to our app right here. And right within the app, we're going to create a folder, sign up. And right within that folder, we're also going to create another folder. We open a curly braces and open another one, and then have ... sign up, and then close it like this. And then within this folder, we're going to create a file, page.tsx, like so. And also within the app folder, we're going to create another folder for the sign in this time. So I'm going to first of all have sign in, and within the sign in, I'm going to have another one, ... sign in. And then right within that sign in, I'm going to have a file. I'm going to name it page.tsx, like so. So now we've created these two routes for our sign in and sign up. So the page that will be displayed for the sign in and the sign up will be coming from our application instead of this right here that we don't know where it is coming from, although it's from Clerk, but we want to have our own customized rights within our application. And you can notice the format right here. This is the way the docs said we should do it. You can see it's having this double square braces. And this is so that it can match any forwarding address to this sign in route right here. It is just the way it's going to work. So we'll make sure we do it like this. And then within the sign in page right here, I'm going to copy the code here and paste right here. And of course, this sign in is going to be coming from Clerk NextJs. So click to import and save. And then for the sign up as well, I'm going to be copying this one for the sign up. So Ctrl C, and then get to the sign up and paste it right there. And also import the sign up right here. It's coming from Clerk. So what we've done right here is to create a sign up route for our application, so that when we click or go to sign up / sign up, then whatever we have here will be returned. In this case, we'll be returning this sign up. And this sign up is coming from Clerk. It is the page that we see when we try to sign up, this particular page right here. And for the sign in, it is this page right here, and it's coming from Clerk NextJs as well. So everything has been pre-made for us from Clerk. We just need to import it and put it right there. So the reason for creating this route is so that we can go directly from our application instead of going to a random platform provided by Clerk. So let me save this. So what that means now is that when we get back right here and click on sign in, then we should have localhost / sign in and all of that instead of that random platform that we had initially there. So let me click on it, and oh no, it's still going to the concise student and whatever we have right here. So that means we have not set things up correctly or properly. So what we need to do now is, let me close this one off, close off the open files we have here. We need to go to our .env file right here, and we'll have to tell Clerk to actually look for the sign in or the sign up route from here, from the instructions that we have instead of .env.local file. And if we go back to the docs, you can see here, after that we have to go to our environment variables. Already we have the middleware.tsx or middleware.ts. So we also have to configure our environment variable. So we need to copy this and paste in right here, so that when we go to sign up, then Clerk knows that there is a sign up route that exists right here in our application, and it uses that one. And if we go to sign in, that is / sign in, then it uses the sign in that we have right here as well. So that's what we need to do. And let me save this and go back to our application one more time, and yeah, refresh. And now if I click on sign in, if it can appear here. Now when I click on sign in, you can see we're still on localhost sign in, and it has a redirect and all of that, right? So you can see it's a lot different, or it's a little bit different from what we had initially. Now this one is to the left here, and we probably need to add some modifications, some styling and all of that. So we can, through this method, you can just sign in directly. But what about the sign up? We don't have any sign up icon or text right here. So let's go to our header And then we're going to create the button for the sign up, and also going to bring in the icon that we had initially. So what we can do first of all is to style this sign in bit. So instead of just having this sign in button, which is a text, we're going to have a button wrapped up in a link that will now take us to the sign in page. So now for the signed out button, we now have a link right here, and the link is going to take us to /sign in, because remember now we have the sign in route right here. So it's going to take us to this page.tsx, right? And this page.tsx is having this sign in from Clerk NextJs right here. Okay, so whenever we click on that button, then it's going to take us to sign in. The same thing as having this one right here. So we no longer need the sign in button we had initially. So when I save this, you can see we have login right here. We can also make it sign in. We have in the text right here, sign in, and this is cool. So what about the sign up button? Because remember, the user can either sign in or sign up. So we also need to bring in the sign up button. So what we can do is also duplicate this link right here and have it for the sign up button here. And so this is the second link that we have right here for the sign up button. Remember, you can see here we have the /sign up, and we also have the route for that, the sign up route right here. So let me save that, and now you can see we have the sign up and the sign in button. So which means that if we click on sign in, we're already on the sign in page, and if we go to the sign up, then we'll be taken to the sign up page, and you can see we're still on the localhost port 3000 /sign up. And if we click on sign in, we're going to be on localhost 3000 /sign in. So it means that we're having or accessing this page right from within our own application. This is awesome. Another thing we can do is just to put this page right here at the center. It looks a bit awkward here to the left. And in order to do that, we can go to our sign in route right here, and then we can wrap this up in a div like so. And then for this div, we're going to have class name, and we're going to have flex, make it a flex of code, and then item center, and yes, it's at the center. Also going to copy this same styling for the sign up route. So let's do that. Take all of this, Ctrl C, and go to the sign up page and paste exactly the same thing. But this time, instead of sign in, we're going to be having sign up, and this one will be sign up as well, and this one will be sign up as well, and save. So it means now when we go to sign up, here is at the center, we can sign up, and when we go to sign in, yes, is at the center, and we can sign in, and we're having all of this from within our own application. How awesome is that? So now we can try to sign in with the account we created earlier, and of course you can log in with either your username or the password. So you put in your password, logged in, voila, and it's at the center right here. So you can click here. We can even manage the account. You can see the username I selected earlier on. I can even upload an image right here by clicking on manage accounts, and then update profile, upload, and I'm going to select an image right here, and it's already saved. You can see the email address connected to this account, and so on and so forth. Yeah, this is awesome. This is a good way to add authentication. Now our application is partially authenticated because we have been able to bring in a user, we're able to sign in a user or sign up a user, and the user can also sign in into the application. So what we need to do now is to protect the route that we want to be able to protect. So now it's time to actually bring in the real authentication. We want only our logged in users to be able to access the dashboard route. But then any user, both logged in or logged out user, will be able to access the root page, which is what we're seeing currently. So let me log out or sign out. And you can see when we sign out, we get this right here. You can see that the user is not signed in, right? But if we go to /dashboard and click on enter, we're able to see the dashboard. This should not be happening at all. We don't want unauthenticated users that are yet to log in or sign in into the application to be able to access the dashboard route. So how do we do this? We can do this inside of the middleware.ts file that we created earlier on. So now let's go to our middleware.ts file. Instead of our middleware.ts file, we have the Clerk middleware right here. And this API is going to help us to allow only authenticated users to access a particular route. So first of all, every route that we have currently within our application can be accessed by any kind of user, both authenticated or yet to be authenticated. And now the thing is, if we now have some special routes that we only want authenticated users to be able to access, then we have to define it right here inside of the middleware.ts file. So what we can do is use the create routes matcher right here coming from Clerk NextJs. This API is going to take an array of all the routes that we want to be able to protect or even make public. But in this case, we want to define routes that we want to protect. So I'm going to bring in the string and then I want to protect the dashboard. So /dashboard, any /dashboard should be protected. So I'm going to do that using the dot and then asterisk. And then I'm going to store this in its own variable. So I'm going to say const protected routes is equals this right here. So now within the Clerk middleware right here, I can define a fat arrow function. And it's going to take in some parameters. First of all, I'm going to make this an async function, the function that will pass to the Clerk middleware API. And it's going to be accepting two parameters. The first one will be auth, and the second one will be the request. This auth is a type of Clerk middleware auth, and this request is going to be the route that particular user is trying to visit. For example, /welcome /dashboard. So we're taking these two, and then we come right here. And then we'll do a check. So we want to check if protected route right here, it should be protected. You can spell it or name it whatever you like. But in this case, I want to name it protected routes. So if protected routes and then pass on the request. This request, like I said earlier on, is going to be the route that the user is trying to visit. And if that route is protected, that is, if that route is among this one here, that is, if it's in this array right here, then what we want to do, we just want to say await auth.protect, like so. So this is a simple code that is going to protect any route that we have inside of this array. In this case, we just have the /dashboard right here. So when a user is trying to visit a route, then Clerk checks if that route is within here. And if it's within here, then it's going to protect that particular route. That means if the user is not authenticated, then the user will be thrown to a page where he or she can sign in or sign up. And that's all we need. So if in the future we also want to protect another route, for example, /profile or /mybank, so we can just add a comma and then put in that route here. It could be /mybank, for example, and any other route that we want to be able to protect right there. So this is what we need to do. And I'm going to save this. And now let me refresh and try to visit /dashboard. And you can see instead of showing us the welcome dashboard, it's telling us to sign in. So that means Clerk is now protecting this route, our /dashboard route. If we try to visit localhost, the root page, we see the root page, but of course, we're also told to sign in or sign up. And if we try to visit /dashboard, then we'll be sent to the sign in page. So yes, our authentication has been fully implemented. And if we dare to sign in with the account that we've created initially and then provide the password, voila, then we'll see that we're welcomed to the dashboard. And you can see the avatar right here, my own image right there. So that means our authentication is truly working. Also, if we go to the home page right here, we have this joining right here. So let's go to the home page. First of all, we'll try to close off the other files that we have. And let's go to the roots of our application, which is the page right here, this one. And right here, we have the join now. So right now we can also create a link. We'll have a link that takes us to the sign up page when we click here, and on our page, our home page, we have this join now. We only want to be able to show this join now if we're here to sign in or sign up. We don't want to have the join now when the user is already logged in, as indicated by this avatar. So we'll have to restructure this code a bit. And in order to do that, we want to have a way to check that a user is actually logged in. And we can import auth from Clerk NextJs server. So right here within our home, right here, I can say auth. And this auth will be coming from Clerk NextJs server like this. So I can await this API, and then I can structure some of the things that can be coming from this auth right here. And one of the values or data that we can be having from the auth is the user ID right here. This user ID is the user ID of the user that we've signed up through Clerk. So when a user signs up, the user is assigned an ID. So we're destructuring that user ID directly from this auth API. And of course, if we want to use an await, then we'll have to make this function an async function like so. So now, how do we use this user ID? We can come right here to where we have the join in, and then we're going to say if user ID exists, then return something. If the user ID does not exist, then return another thing. So this is what we can have. So we're having the user ID. We're checking if user ID exists, then we're going to return all of this right here. We're going to return a link to say go to the dashboard, and we're going to the / dashboard route. But if there is no user ID, then we want to return all of this right here. In which case, we're going to be seeing this join now. So as soon as I save, you can see we have go to dashboard instead. And if I click on go to dashboard, we get sent to the dashboard. And of course, if I sign out, then we'll get back to this page where we can now click on join in. It no longer has the go to the dashboard. So we can click on join now and we'll be taken to a page to sign up, right? So everything is working perfectly well. Now, the next thing is actually to bring in the webhooks into this application. But before we do that, we want to go to our .env file right here, and we want to have a way or a route that the user should land after signing in or signing up. So for example, we want the user to actually go to the dashboard page after signing in, but maybe we also want the user to go to a welcome page after signing up and things like that. So how do we do that? We can do that by defining, instead of the .env.local file, these two variables right here, the next public Clerk sign in fallback redirect URL and the next public Clerk sign up fallback redirect URL. So what this means is that after signing, we want to send the user to the dashboard immediately. And after signing up, we want the user to go to the /welcome page. Currently, when we sign in, let's see the page that we get sent to after signing in. So after signing in, we get to the root of the application. As soon as we save this, it's refreshed. So what we're going to do now is to sign out and try to sign in again and see what happens. Yeah, we click on the avatar, we sign out, and after signing out, we can now sign in one more time and we should get sent to the dashboard. Yes, we get sent to the dashboard. And that also means that after signing up as well, we get sent to the welcome page. All right, so everything is working well. Now it's time to actually push this version of our application to the main branch. We're working on the main branch. You can see we're on the main branch right here. So I'm going to click on here and then I'm going to commit all of our code so far. So I'm going to say done with auth with Clerk and commit and publish this branch. So we've published the branch and all of our codes will be in this next auth app repository down there in the description. And what I'm going to do is to create another branch. I'm going to call it Webhooks. So here we'll be having the codes for the webhooks and enter and publish that branch. So now it says publish to GitHub private repository at LDAMNix or to public repository. I'm going to choose public repository so that you all can see it there. All right, so successfully published the LDAMNix next auth app repository to GitHub. Awesome. and I can also have a commit message if I want, but now there is nothing to commit, so let's leave it at that. And later on, I'm going to merge all of our code to the main branch, because currently we have the main branch and the webhooks. Alright, great. Now that we're done setting up our application and everything is running perfectly well, it is time to bring in the webhooks into our application. So what is webhooks and how do we use the Clerk webhooks in our NextJs 15 application? Webhook is a way in which applications communicate with each other based on events that may happen. In our own particular case, we want to use Clerk webhooks. And this means that we want Clerk to communicate to our application or send some information or data to our application or even alert our application when certain events occur. For example, when a user is created or when a user is deleted or when a user's data is updated. And since we've been using Clerk for authentication in our current application, if we go ahead and navigate to the Clerk dashboard right here, you can see at the time we created a user, you can see right here, we just have one user on this application. If we navigate right here to the user, you can see this is the only user that we have. And if we click on it, then we'll be able to see some information or data associated with this particular user. You can see the user ID, you can see the user email, you can see the username, and there will be a whole lot of other information about this user stored on Clerk. And in order to even see a much more comprehensive data or information stored on Clerk when a user is created, let's actually go to the Clerk documentation right here and search the docs for webhooks and click on webhooks overview right here. And you can see right here, this is a definition of what a webhook is. You can actually read through if you want, but it's basically the same thing that I just explained now. And if you go down here, you can see this is a payload of the sort of data that Clerk actually stores when a user is created. So you can see this is the birthday, created at, that is when the user was created, the email addresses, and last name right here, and password enabled, phone numbers, you have a username, you have object, and then you even have the type of event that occurred. In this case, a user was created. So when a user was created, you all have all of this data. So using webhooks, we might want to send all of this data to our own application. This could be the information that we want Clerk to send to our application, and then we can decide on what to do with this particular information. And this data right here is known as the payload. So this is the payload or the data object that we can actually get from Clerk when a user is created, and then we can send all of this data to our application, and then we'll now decide what to do with this data. For example, store the user in a database. Now, if we navigate back to our dashboard right here, you can see that this information about this user is only stored on Clerk. Now, what if we want to actually store this user in our database because something might be wrong with Clerk, or we just want to store some custom data that is not necessarily available right here for Clerk? Maybe we want to store, for example, the blood type of this user, and there is no blood type right here on Clerk. So we want to actually get the payload right here from Clerk and then decide on what to do with this data. And this is made available to us using Clerk webhooks. And in case you're using any other platform aside from Clerk for authentication, they will also have a webhook that you can use to work with your application. Now that we've talked about webhooks this far, it is time to actually get into our application in our VS Code and start working with Clerk webhooks. And in order to start working with Clerk webhooks, let's follow this particular documentation that we'll have right here. So it's first of all define what a webhook is, which is an event-driven method of communication between applications, and it described a whole lot. And then right here you can see what it said. It said the payload carries a JSON object. You can then use the information from the request JSON payload to trigger actions in your app, such as sending a notification or updating a database. And it also says that when an event occurs right here, Clerk will send an HTTP post request to your webhook endpoint configured for that event type. Now let's scroll down. We've already seen what the payload or the data or information that Clerk can send back to our application. But now let's see how we can integrate Clerk webhook into our own application. Right here, there should be a place where we can find the documentation, and let's scroll down a bit, and here it says sync data to your database, which is exactly what we want to do. So when a user is created in our application using Clerk, we want to send or sync that data on Clerk to our own database, and we can find the guide right here. So let's click on here, and here it says sync Clerk data to your app with webhooks, and then it gave out outline on how to do that. The number one thing we need to do is set up ngrok, and then we can begin to test our webhook. But ngrok right here is used to put our application out there online. That is the purpose of using ngrok. We cannot work with webhook when we're just using localhost right here on our local computer, on our local server. We need to expose our application to the internet, and that's what ngrok does for us. But we can also deploy our application on Vercel, and then it's available on the internet, and then we can use the URL of our application to set up webhooks. So we can skip this step number one first of all, because we're not going to be using ngrok. Rather, we're going to be deploying our application on Vercel. So the number two thing to do is to set up a webhook endpoint. How do we do that? We have to go to our app right here, and then we need to create a folder. I'm going to call the folder API, and then within the API, we're also going to create another folder, and we're going to call the folder webhooks. Now, inside of the webhooks folder, we're going to create a file called route.ts. So this is how it works. We need to create all of these folders and then create the route.ts inside of the webhooks folder. So let's scroll down. So the number three thing to do is to add your sign-in secret to .env.local. Currently, we've not gone to our Clerk dashboard to actually start using the webhooks, so we'll not be able to get the sign-in secret for now. So let's skip to the fourth step, and it says set the webhook route as public in our middleware. So we have to go to our middleware.ts right here, and then we'll have to make the endpoint, that is the /API/webhooks endpoint, public. But it's already public because every route in our application is public, aside from those that we're protecting right here using the create route matcher. So we don't need to do this number four step. And then the fifth step is to install Sphinx. So let's open up the terminal and come right here, and I'm going to say npm install Sphinx, and it's installing. So while it is installing, we can go to the sixth step, and here it says create the endpoint, set up a route handler that uses Sphinx to verify the incoming Clerk webhook and process the payload. Alright, so this is where we're getting to. So we need to copy all of this, because remember, inside of our app, we have already created the API folder and the webhooks folder and the route.ts file, and then we need to copy all of this code into the route.ts file. So let me copy that, copy it, and then get to the route.ts file and paste everything right here. So let's see what we have from the beginning. And now that Xfix is also done installing, we can clear the terminal and then close it off. And right here, we're having some red lines. Let's see why that is so. It's saying property get does not exist on type promise read only headers. Did you forget to use await? Alright, so I think some ways of handling this code have changed a bit because we're now working with NextJs 15. So what we can do is put an await right here and put an await right here as well, and right here as well, and save. Alright, the error is still right there. So what we can do actually is to wrap this one in parentheses, and the error disappears, and we'll do the same for this one and this one as well. Yeah, so all the errors are gone, and then we can save. Alright, so what do we have here? We have this function and a sync function, which is post. This route is only going to be working with the post handler right here, and then we're going to be getting our sign-in secret. So right here we should have a sign-in secret inside of our .env.local file, but at the moment we don't have that sign-in secret. So let's go to our Clerk dashboard right here, and then let's go to configure, and then click on this icon right here, and then go to webhooks right here. We can also view the docs from here if we want, but let's wait for things to load up. Yeah, so you see here it says set up an endpoint to get started. So that endpoint is going to be the URL to our deployed application. Remember, we're not using ngrok. If we were using ngrok, then we would have to use the ngrok URL, the URL provided to us by ngrok. But since we want to deploy our application on Vercel, it means that we first of all need to deploy our application, because if you click on add endpoint here, it requires that we place the link to that our deployed application right here, and we don't have it at the moment. So let's deploy our application. And how do we deploy it? We need to go to Vercel. Let's go to vercel.com, and then it says start deploying and get a demo and all of that stuff. But what I want to do is to sign in directly. So if you don't have an account on Vercel, you can create one. And if you already have an account, you can just click on login. So I think I'm going to continue with email and provide my email right here, and then sends a verification mail, and the code I'm going to put it right here, and then I'll be signed in. You can see these are some of the applications deployed on Vercel. So what I'm going to do is go right here. In fact, let me expand this browser's window. I can go right here and click on add new, and then click on projects, and then you can see we can deploy our application that is already on Git right here in our Vercel. So what I'm going to do is first of all go back to application, and we need to commit what we've done so far right here. Let me commit it with the message basic webhooks, because we're yet to be done with the webhooks. So I'm going to click on commit and then sync changes. All right. Now let me refresh the Vercel, and you can see it says just now. So that means I just made a push to this repository on GitHub. Let me maximize the browser's window one more time. And right here, we can just click on import to import this particular NextJs app that we're working with. So the project name is going to be NextJs app, and we can put in environment variables. So we can minimize this, and then let me go to the environment, or .env.local, and first of all copy all what we have at the moment. We're still missing the sign-in secret, right? But let's just keep this in for now. I'm going to paste, and everything just gets inside of Vercel directly. Let me accept all, and then that's all. And I'm just going to click on deploy, and if everything goes well, we'll get our application deployed on Vercel, and then we'll have a URL to that application, which we're going to use inside of our Clerk dashboard for webhooks. So let's wait for the application to deploy successfully on Vercel. And one good thing about using Vercel is that you can use it to manage your deployed application. You can use it to see logs, the errors, and some other information or data that you need to see. You're all going to be able to see it on this Vercel. I think that's one of the great advantages that Vercel, or deploying our application on Vercel, has. So let's wait for a few more minutes or seconds for that matter for our application to get deployed on Vercel. Hopefully there won't be any errors. All right, so it says congratulations, you just deployed a new project to Dominic Ebere's project and all of that. So let's go to the dashboard right here. Yeah, so to the dashboard, I can click on deployments right here, and then click on this one, and then this is the URL that we need. So I can just copy this right here, the first one right here, Ctrl C, and then get back to our Clerk dashboard, and we're going to type the HTTPS / and then paste, and then we're going to have / API, that is, we want to expose that route here, API / webhooks. Yes, and that's all we need. We can add some description of what our app is doing or what this endpoint would be for. So it's optional. We can add it if you want. So I'm just going to say endpoint for webhooks, just like this, very simple. And then right here, we want to choose some of the events that we want our Clerk to watch out for. So when this event occurs inside of Clerk, then we're going to get that payload, that data from Clerk into application, and then we can now do something with that payload as we want. So what I'm going to choose is just user created and user deleted. I'm going to choose user created and I'm going to choose user deleted. Let me also choose user updated, and that's it. And after that, I'm just going to scroll down here and click on create. All right, so our endpoint is created. You can see it right here, and we can now begin to get messages and all of that right here. So if there is a success message when a user is created, we're going to see the notifications right here. If there is a success message when a user is deleted, we're going to see it as well right here. So we're going to see all of those information right here on the Clerk dashboard. This is just for message sake, just to see things on Clerk. And then if you look right here, you're going to see the sign-in secret. So we can just click here and say this is sign-in secret, and we can copy all of these and then paste right there inside of our .env.local file. So let me copy all of this, Ctrl C, and then let's get back to the documentation. So it's going to be sign-in secret. So I'm going to have something like sign-in secret equals, and then paste our sign-in secret right here. So make sure it's the same exact spelling as we have here so that things can work properly. All right, and we're going to save and then close off the .env.local file. And one other thing we can do is copy this sign-in secret. Remember, we did not upload it to our currently deployed application. So let's go back to Vercel right here and go back to deployments and then go to settings. Remember, we're still on the NextJs app, and I'm going to click on environment variables. And right here, you can see the environment variables that we deployed earlier on. So I'm going to paste in the one we just copied right now, our sign-in secret, and click on save. So we've added that sign-in secret right here is here as well. So let's close off the .env.local right here, and let's see what's happening here. So here we get the sign-in secret from process.env.sign-in secret, and if it doesn't exist, then we're going to throw an error. Otherwise, we'll continue with the code, and then we'll get a new webhook. This webhook is coming from Svix right here, and we'll pass it the sign-in secret, and then we'll get the header payload using these headers right here, and the headers is also coming from next headers. And then here we get this, we get the Svix ID, and we'll get this Svix timestamp and this Svix signature and all of that. So if there are no headers, because using this route, we want to make sure that whatever is alerting our application is coming from the correct source, so that someone is not impersonating a Clerk notification and all of that. So we want to make sure that we check everything so that we don't have our application hacked. So we want to check if there is no Svix ID, no Svix stamps, and Svix signature, then we're going to return a response with an error message right here. Otherwise, we can get the payload, and the payload is going to be coming from this request right here. So we'll say request.json, we'll have the payload, right? And then we can stringify it, and then we'll all have all of this code. Remember, this code is coming from the Clerk documentation. All right, so I'm just trying to explain to us what this code is actually doing. And then right here, we want to verify the payload with headers. So we'll do the verification, and if there's any error, we'll say, okay, could not verify the webhooks and all of that. And then we also can get the event type. So for example, it could be that a user was deleted, or a user was created, or a user's information or data was updated. In this case, we want to do something with it. That's why we have this comment right here, do something with the payload. And for now, they're just logging some information to the console. But instead of just logging information to the console, let me delete this one. Let me delete this one. Now let's customize things a bit. And I'm going to delete this one as well. We don't need it for now. So we're just creating this const of event type, and it's going to be the event type that will trigger the running of this post function right here. So the event type could be event.userCreated, event.userDeleted, event.userUpdated, and so on and so forth. If we go to the Clerk documentation, we can see some of those events that can occur. For example, you have user.created right here. You can also have the user.deleted, user.updated, updated and so on and so forth. So we might want to do a check down here and say if event type is equals user dot created. We should wrap this inside of a string. So user dot created. Then what do we want to do? So we open up our curly braces. We want to get some of the credentials that we ask the user to provide when signing up, and so we can destructure them from events.data. So I'm going to have this equals evt.data, like so. And then we can get the ID, we can get username, we can also get email addresses, like so. And then we can log them to the console. So we can say console.log our user details, and then log the ID and the username, and then log the email addresses dot email address, and save. Yeah, so this is what we're going to log to the console. But now we're still getting this red line, so let's see why that is so. Clicking here, it says okay, it has no overlap. The event.type, okay, instead of saying user that's created, we're saying user that creates. So let me make that created. And for this one, let's see why. Okay, it doesn't exist on type user.json or user.json. So let's go back to the documentation and see what it's supposed to be. I think we have the payload right here. Okay, I can see the payload that we saw initially. Let me go back one page and then scroll up. Okay, we have it right here. So let's see, it has email addresses, like so. So instead of typing the email addresses like this, I'm going to say email and then underscore addresses. Okay, now we need to correct it here as well, underscore addresses. And then instead of this, I'm going to say right here is email addresses dot email address right here. So I'm going to say dot email underscore address. Oh, this is an array. So we need to do email addresses, then open up this one, 0 dot email address, like this. Okay, so this is what we have, and we can now save. So it means that if everything goes up correctly, when we create a user, then we should have this data logged onto the console, because for now we're just logging things to our console, right? So let's go back to our Vercel right here, and before we test things out, we also need to make this push to our GitHub repository. And whenever we make a push, then everything will be refreshed and synchronized on Vercel. So that's one good thing about deploying on Vercel. So I'm just going to say edited webhooks and commit and sync changes. And these changes are going inside of the webhooks branch right here as we have it. So now that it's done committing and pushing, if we come right here and go back to deployments, you can see another one is building right here. This is the first one that we built, the first deployed application, and this is the second one. Sometimes when you get to Vercel for the very first time, it can seem intimidating, but it's really simple to use and deploy your application and view all of the logs. So if you click here on logs, you can see all of the information, the 200 status code right here of all the things that we've tried to visit in this, our deployed application. All right, so while it's still deploying, I can just show you around. Here you can go to settings and do some settings for the application. Here you can even store images or videos and all of that. You can have database right here inside of Vercel. You have firewalls, you have observability, logs that we just saw right now. You can even have insights into your application. You can have analytics, so many great things, so many good stuff inside of Vercel. So I think is the #1 place to deploy your application, especially your NextJs application. And right now, our second redeployed application is ready. It's still the same application, but this one is the current one. You can see it says current. So this is the up-to-date version of our application, having our up-to-date code right here. You can see our GitHub message right here, the commit we just did. Edited webhooks, you can see it's right here. So it's taking our code from our GitHub repository. How cool is that? So what we can do now is click on here, and then you can have the link. So let's actually check if this link right here is the same thing with what we have instead of our Clerk dashboard. So let's go here. Okay, still the same thing. NextAuth app pink gamma Vercel.app. Let's check that. Yes, it's still the same thing. So still application, and we can open it up right here by clicking it, and it opens in a new web browser tab. And here is our application. You can see this is the deployed version of our application, no longer on the localhost 3000. So right here we have our deployed application, and it's still going to work as it worked instead of our localhost right here. All right, so let's go and test things out, and let me dismiss this one for now. These are the tools coming up from Vercel. You can always disable these things if you want, especially if you deploy up to production. But before I test these things out, let me actually say, okay, the source is Webhooks, okay, because sometimes it's having the source as a different Git branch. So you want to make sure that it has a branch where you have all of your code at the moment. And then in the end, when you merge all of your branch into the main branch, then you can use the main branch as a source right here. And you can always do that from the settings inside of Vercel. So now let's go back to our application. And when we click on join now, I think we already have an account, right? Because if we go to our Clerk dashboard and go to users, you can see we have one user right here. So since we already have a user, let me sign in instead. And let me sign in with my email. And then I'm going to put the password that I use and then try to sign in. Right now, what I'm going to do is actually delete this user. For now, instead of our route.ts, we're only listening for the user.created. We've not made for that of user deleted or user updated. So we're not going to get any information or console.log statement inside of Vercel. So what I want to do is delete this account rather than sign up. Let me delete so I can create my account again. So we're going to have a user that's created event fired up, right? So go to security and then delete account. And then right here, we're going to say delete account and then click on delete. Now it's deleted. We're back to this page right here. So I can click on sign up or join now. Anyone that I want, they will go to the same place. And I'm going to provide a username of Dominic. And remember, we can always adjust the parameters or credentials we're accepting from our users. At the time I created the Clerk application, we only chose to accept username, email address, and password. If we wanted to change things, we can always come back to our Clerk dashboard and we can click on configure and you can choose all of these things right here. Email, phone, username. Yes, it's chosen. Here you can see phone number is not selected. So we're not going to see phone number right there. We see that username is toggled on. So we're going to collect username. Authentication strategies, we need the password and email verification. If we choose any of these other options, then the user can also have options to this. For personal information, we're not even accepting first name and last name. So we're not going to be getting last name. I just made it very simple. But if you're working with your own real application, you can choose all of these things and even more. All right. So let's get back to our application. And right here, I'm going to select Dominic and email address. And then for the password, and I'm going to click on continue. And then it's going to send me a verification code because remember in our Clerk dashboard, we decided to authenticate using email verification code. So a verification code will be sent to my email and then I'm going to type it right here. So I got the notification and the code is 774158. And as soon as I put that in, we have a success message right here. And voila, we are taken to this page, right? What route is this? We're taken to the welcome route right here. So now that we created this user, let's go to our Vercel and view the logs and see if we get the logs right there. And you can see we have errors right here coming from API webhooks, right? And you can see errors. So let's click on there. There is no need to fear and see why the error happened. Okay, for these ones, we did not get it, but if you look right here, you can see we got that log statement that says our user details, and then we have the ID, we have the username, and we have the email address right here. How cool is that? Now, something probably happened with this other webhooks. It's probably because of our first deployed application that did not have some of the changes that we have in this current one. But at least now we're getting our console.log statement right here. We have it right here. We also have it right here. It means it's working. It's probably because there are 2 deployed applications right here in our NextJs app. So what I'm going to do is go to deployment again and see those applications. Now let's go to our Clerk dashboard right here and go to the webhooks and see if we get a message. It's loading, and we should click right here, and you can see we get this message right here, sending to failed, and they all failed. Okay, they failed for user.deleted, user.created, user.created, and all of this. We're getting these messages right here. Did anyone succeed? Okay, none succeeded. Probably because we need to update this endpoint that we have right here. Let's go back here and let's see our application. Let's copy the root of our application right here. Let me copy everything, right, and get back to the Clerk dashboard and edit. Yes, we can always edit. So let me take this one away and paste it. I think we basically have the same thing. I don't need the double HTTPS, and save and get back to Vercel. And I think what we can actually do is to go to projects. What we can do actually is to delete this application and redeploy it again with all the things that we have currently. So I'm going to go to settings. You should not do this if you're having a real application out there. Of course, that's why you have the Git branches. And what I'm going to do for the purpose of what we're doing right here is to go to advanced and see if I can delete that, or go to deployment. Let me go to security. Let me go to general. Here we have the delete. So I'm going to delete this. And yes, I want to delete. So I'm going to copy this name and then paste it right here, and then delete my project and click on continue, and it's been deleted. So what I'm going to do is redeploy the application one more time. So I'm going to Vercel home, and we're already there. I'm going to create a new project and still use this one, the NextJs app right here, and import. So let me redeploy this. Let me deploy, but before that, let me get the environment variables once more and copy all of this and go to environment variables and paste everything right here and then deploy. All right, now it's getting from the webhooks. So let's see how things go. Let's see if we still get the error. It's still deploying, and if we get the URL, it means we need to come back to our Clerk dashboard and update the URL to our application, and now it's deployed again. So let's go to dashboard, and then this is a link. So I'm going to copy this one as well. What I'm going to do is go to deployment and then click on this one and then copy this one. And of course, the source is the webhooks right here. Okay, but before then, let me go back and go to settings and go to Git. And let's see. Okay, it's deploying from our webhooks and not the main branch, because currently our main branch does not have the up-to-date code that we have inside of the webhooks. So everything is okay. Now let's go to Clerk dashboard and edit this one more time. I'm going to copy everything from here to next and paste our new URL of the deployed application, and let's save. Okay, so now we've saved. I'm not sure we saved things correctly. Let's delete that one more time. Okay, and save. Okay, now it's saved, and let's go back. Let's click this one. And let's open the URL, go to deployment and click on this one, and then click on this one to open our application. And what I'm going to do is come from Clerk dashboard right here, go to users and delete the user right from here. Let me delete it so we don't have any users. So I'll just directly be able to create another user from here. So let me click join now and then sign up again. So I'm still going to sign up with username Dominic. Email address, same email address, and then password, and then continue. And as usual, I'm going to receive the authentication email, and I get the notification 746-709, and we get success, and we've created a user. So let's go inside of the let's go inside of Vercel and look at the logs and see if we get our log right there. All right, we're still getting some of these errors, but at the moment, we're also getting the log statement right here. You can see our user details, user ID right here, and then we're getting the username of Dominic, and then we're also getting the email address right here, which is all the data that were logged onto our console right here. And let me see if we can get the root of the errors or the logs that we're seeing here. Okay, saying production right here. Okay, I'm not sure why we're getting this error, but at least we're getting the log statement to the console. But let's go back to the Clerk dashboard and go to configure and click on here to go to the webhooks and see if we get a success message as well on the webhooks right here. Okay, user that created, deleted, we're not getting anyone. Of course, we're not yet doing anything for the deletion and the updation, but the created should work, right? So let's see, created, let's see what we're getting here. This is the payload as we talked about initially, and the event is user that created. But for some reasons, we're not getting the success message that we should be getting on the webhooks. So going back to our Vercel, let me click the webhooks and see all the errors that we got from here. Let me actually expand my browser's window a bit so we can see everything at once. All right, so let me click on this one and see the message 500 internal server error. Okay, I'm not seeing any real message right here as to why we got this error. Okay, and for this one, no response is returned from route handler, Vercel, app, API, webhooks. Okay, it's saying that we should return a response or a next response in all branches of your handler. Okay, now I know why we're having the errors here, and it's good you're here to debug this with me because these things happen naturally in our application. So initially, when we copied the code right here from Clerk, which is right here, you can see it has this next response, right? It has a response, return a new response, or we can also return a next response. So that's what we should actually return in this post function right here, the post handler, but we did not do that. So let's return that. So let's return a new response. Let's just say everything good. Let's use that opportunity to also check the event for user deletion. So I'm going to copy this and right here paste this. And remember, instead of logging this to the console when we create a user, at this point we can also call a server action, to create user to database. In order to see how the server action works and how we can use database right here, you can check the link in the description below to one of my videos where I talked about server actions and how you can create a server action and send data to the database. So that particular server action, you can call it right here to create a user and store the data to a database. So check the description below for the link to that video. All right. So at this point, you can call server action to create user. And if the user is deleted, no need to get the email addresses of the user that has been deleted. You can just get the ID if you want, and you can delete all of this. You can say our deleted user, and we'll just console log the ID. And then at this point also, we can call server action to delete the user from the database. And let's do for user updation as well. So if we update the user, if user.updated, then what we want to say is our updated user details, and you can just log the ID right there, no problem. And then we can call server action to update user on our database. All right, and save. So this is what we're going to have. And then we're returning a response of everything good, like so, with a status code of 200 and save. Yeah, so we're set up. So this is why we're having the error. We did not return a response, and I missed that totally. All right, so now that we have some changes, it's time to commit our changes. So let's say webhooks finished and commit and sync changes to the remote repository on GitHub. All right, now it's done synchronizing, and that means if we go to our Vercel right here and go to deployment, we should actually see a new deployment up and running. Let's go to the application. So let's click on the next auth app. So right here we have this one upcoming is building. So let's wait for it to build. And when it's done building, then we can check to make sure that the URL of the current application is what we have also on the Clerk dashboard, so that there won't be any errors and all of that. So let's wait for a while to get it finished. And I think it's done redeploying. So let's go to deployment. Yes, this one is ready. So this is the current deployed version now. So let's click on here and check the link. Okay, it's still the same URL address, NextAuth app PIED.Vercel app. Let's check our Clerk dashboard. NextAuth app PIED.Vercel app /API Webhooks. Yeah, so this is what we should have right here. So let's click on here. Let's close the one that we worked on initially. And of course, here it says a new deployment is available. So we can actually refresh to load that new deployment, or can just also click from here, whichever one is up to us. Yeah, so we're right here. Let me click on here and let me try to update the user information. So I can click on manage account and update profile. Now I want to perform some updation on this account. I'm going to click on upload and choose an image right here. Let me choose a fine image of myself, and after choosing that, it's going to update automatically, like you can see right here. So that means if we go to our Vercel and click on logs, we should get the logs right here, and we're getting some 200 status code right here. It means everything worked perfectly. And so let's see what we have right there. You can see it says, okay, 200, okay. And I'm looking for the logs. Let me expand my browser's window a bit. And let's click on this one, and let's see if we have the log statement right here. Let's click on this one, and here we have it, our updated user details, and we just have the user ID. So you can see how we're using webhooks to communicate with our application. We're using the webhooks from Clerk to send some data or information to our application. Now that we've gotten the user ID or any of the other data from Clerk, we can now use it to update a user on the database or do any other thing that we want to do. In the same way, if we go back to application and delete this user, so if I go to manage account and go to security and go to delete account and type delete account right here, then we'll be able to delete this account and we'll get a message as well. So let's go back to our application right here, and everything will be refreshed automatically, or we can do that by ourselves. So if I refresh now, it's loading, then we'll be able to see the log statement right here, the one that says our deleted user details, and we'll have the ID right here. So yes, let's see, we have this. So you can see our deleted user details, and we have the user ID of that deleted user. How awesome is that? So that means we've successfully used Clerk webhooks to communicate with our application, and we're able to send data through the payload from Clerk to application, and we can do anything that we want with that data. So for example, we're grabbing the ID here. We can use the ID to update a user on the database. We're also grabbing the ID here. We can use the ID to delete a user from the database. We're also grabbing the ID and username and everything here from user created from Clerk, and then we can use the ID, username, and all of this to create a user on our MongoDB database. So that, my friends, brings us to the end of this video, where we've been able to use Clerk for authentication in a web application. We're able to use Clerk to sign up users, and the users can sign in with their credentials. And we also learned how to use webhooks with Clerk in our application. And we also learned how to deploy our application on Vercel using the GitHub repository where our code is stored. So with that under your belt, you should be able to create a NextJs application and use Clerk for authentication, and also use webhooks from Clerk, and then deploy your application on Vercel and view the logs and view your deployed application on Vercel and change anything you want to change and all of that, all by using Vercel. This is really, really nice. And if you want to learn more about Next.js, you can check the link in the description below, where I talked about server action and how you can even use Zod for validation in NextJs application and React hook form and all of that. You can learn a lot from that video. So that, my friend, is it for now. See you in the next one.